This is Buying Miami, Life, Love, and Real Estate, and I am your host, JoAnne Jones. I'm a second-generation Miamian, and I am obsessed with real estate, and also living your best life here in the best city, Miami. Okay, we are back with another episode of Buying Miami, Life, Love, and Real Estate, and 80% of the show is about real estate, but then I slip in a little life and love there too. And today I have Katy Stoka, who is a really interesting woman. And we have friends in common, and I've seen her around. And oddly enough, her name was in my phone when we connected, so I knew that we knew each other somehow.
Same. From
real estate.
Real estate.
But we talk about purchasing a home here in Miami, and then the life and love is talking about the life that you create after you purchase your home. And it's interesting because in Miami, whatever you're looking for, you'll find. So if you want to, party till 5 o'clock in the morning and do drugs and be at space, there's that. Or if you want to wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning and do sunset yoga, there's that.
Yeah.
Now, we had talked about this before. I'm a Miami native, born and raised. So I've done everything under the sun. I party till 5 o'clock in the morning doing drugs at space. And I've woken up at 5 o'clock in the morning to do meditation yoga on the beach. So, I've lived so many lifetimes in Miami. I think you get to a certain age. I got to a certain age where I removed alcohol and drugs from my life. We grew up around it, so it's kind of like a rite of passage, I think. And then you get to a point where you're like, wow, this doesn't really make sense for me anymore. I can't function at a very high level, or I can't get to the highest levels that I want to go to with alcohol and drugs in my life. And now, don't get me wrong, I wasn't a big drug dealer, but I like to smoke my little pot here and there, and sometimes, other dry goods were involved, being in Miami, but it just got to a point right around when I turned 30 and I got into real estate. I realized, whoa, this is a big girl's game, and I can't do it at a high level if I'm hungover. And I got to a point where I realized that it just doesn't make sense for me to continue to have alcohol at the level that I had it in my life. So I think when I was just 29, I took it out. And I've had a love-hate relationship with it because I took it out, I put it back in, I took it out, I put it back in. And now I've had it out for years. But every time I put it back in, I always remember, nope, this doesn't work for me. And you and I connected because you had kind of made that decision as well a couple years ago. And I think that there's a new trend where people are going alcohol free. I guess the same way that some people decide I'm not going to have sugar in my life anymore. When you really sit down and you do the pros and cons, you do the pluses and minuses on alcohol, a lot of times it nets out to maybe I should have it out of my life. Now, obviously, there's not everybody is going this way, but I think more and more people are deciding that alcohol doesn't really work out for them. And when I look at all my bad decisions in life, I'd say 99% of them had alcohol involved. So I was so attracted to talk to you about your journey. What made you decide to do this? Because it's a big decision, and it has I would even say some social consequences in a way, because not everybody is going to be cool with that. Not everybody is comfortable with me. I lost friends, over not drinking. Sure. Not everybody was comfortable with me not drinking.
Of course.
And that's their own problem. But, that's something that I was like, wow, that's like being really fat and deciding to go to the gym, and people aren't comfortable with you going to the gym and being skinny. You know what I mean? It's weird. So, Katy, thank you for coming on the show. And please tell us how you got to the point of making the decision to go alcohol free. And how has that changed your life and affected it? And
in so many ways, right? And so it's true. A few things. When you do decide to quit because it's no longer serving you, and that was my point, it's just no longer serving me.
Right.
It was just too many, I prioritize health and wellness, but yet I'm not waking up 100%. This does not make sense. And so as far as it with other people, I have this thing that's called there's 3 types of business. There is my business, everything having to do with me, my life, my family, everything like that. There's other people's business, and then there's God's business, okay? And so other people's business is all about their business and their life, and it only involves your business when it's literally involving you. And then there's God's business. I always say, my mom calls me, I was watching Weather Channel and the hurricane's coming. That's God's business. So I find that I am most at peace and happiest when I'm staying in my business.
Yeah.
I find that I also have the most time in the day when I'm not thinking about other people's business, because even what other people think of you is not your business. It's other people's business. So when you stay in your own business, I feel like that was the best way for me to cut alcohol out of my life, because no one wants to hear an evangelist talk to them about what they're doing wrong, right? So I have fully accepted that people are going to either love it or hate it or be neutral or whatever. It doesn't matter. It's my journey. And if other people are uncomfortable, I literally have... It was also easier for me because I did it later on in my life and realized with full clarity that it was no longer working for me. And it really does not matter what anyone else thinks about it. It can be particularly I call it the first 100 days. And I really work with people on this first 100 days concept, because that is the most defining. I can still remember the feeling of, it's just a little bit like, what is going on out there?
Yeah.
Because I really am not going to go to a party where the options are champagne or tequila, and I really don't want to talk to a lot of people about this. It's just like in my, I had this invention that we can talk about later, but I had a beauty invention. I really protected the idea around it. I literally protected it with a patent, but I also protected the idea of it because other people's opinions couldn't get in there.
Yeah.
You can't go to a party 5 days after you've decided to take alcohol out of your life with your best friends who you've been partying with for the past 2 decades.
Yeah.
And expect to be like this strong person that's like, I'm going to have a blast without it. Maybe you can. It's just not setting yourself up. I'm just saying, build the cards so, have a really strong hand before you go out there. And that's why the first 100 days are just so crucial to you deciding why you want to do this, so that when you go out, you are not on the defense. You are just there to have a great time. I'm always like, listen, I don't like the word sober. Sober to me equals boring, which is not a true statement, I know.
Yeah.
But in my head, when I was first doing the first 100 days, I was like, I don't want to be boring. I want to be fun. And alcohol is fun. Alcohol isn't fun. Your experiences with alcohol have been fun. There's not just fun and alcohol and those two things. It's that you had a blast, alcohol was present, and that's why your brain is connecting those two things.
For sure.
Right?
Yeah.
But you've taken it out of your life and you have had a great time without alcohol.
Oh, yeah.
And so you have had your brain disconnect these two things. So I guess there's a lot there, but the important thing is to protect your own decision, to protect your decision to take alcohol out of your life, to not really go out there until you're, don't become super a hermit at all. I'm not saying at all, because you need the connection. But your connection needs to be with the people that support you.
100%. 100%. And I mean, I've gotten to the point where I feel like sobriety is my superpower. And I say it all the time. Sobriety it allows me to go and do. It allows me to go to Faena on a Friday night and have a wonderful dinner and stay out till, 12:31, and then be able to wake up in the morning after, 7 hours of sleep and be ready and motivated and ready to show 5 properties. Like, on point.
And you want to do that. It is your superpower because you want to. And I love how you say it's your choice, because it is. When we go out to dinners that are fantastic and you're having great conversations, that's the fun. There is nothing missing for me because I have all of the things that I need, which is great food, great company, all of music, whatever other things that just create a great night for you, they're there.
Oh, yeah.
And I do not want the alcohol. I used to think, I don't even think that I thought that I needed it or I thought I wanted it. I didn't think of anything at all. I just sat down and ordered a glass.
Yeah.
I think that a lot of it is just unconscious. And I think that is why this is resonating with people. First of all, because they're like, Katy, I never thought that you would be the person to talk about this because I just was always the person with a glass of champagne in my hand. But I was also the person that was achieving my goals, right? So I was in leadership positions because I could, quote unquote, keep my shit together because I hadn't gotten to a quote unquote point. All of this is just garbage talk of like, it doesn't matter. My one question is this serving you? That's it. It doesn't matter what stage you're in. It doesn't matter what you are trying or not trying or what you're doing. How do you rank your life? If it's not close to a 10, why is it not? And what are the things that are bringing you down? And usually people know real quick what is their thing. It doesn't always have to be alcohol. For me, it was alcohol.
Right.
Other people, there are a myriad of things that you can choose that it would be so much more effortless for your life if you just removed it and then did all of the other things that you need to heal.
Yeah. I mean, there's so much to unpack there, but what's coming to me is like when you sit down and you're really honest with yourself and you look at like what is serving me and what is not. It could be something like if you want to be healthy, it doesn't make sense for you to eat processed food, right? You're not going to be eating Oreos and Fritos and drinking soda and da-da-da-da if you want to be a healthy person. So it doesn't, listen, I love McDonald's. Love it. But when I think about, how it's processed and all that goes into it and da-da-da, just thinking about it kind of like I become disenchanted with it. So you don't necessarily have to have a drinking problem per se. Like a lot of people quit drinking because they're alcoholic or they have a drinking problem or whatever. You could just be like, you know what? I really want to, have my goals done and I don't want anything to hold me back. And so it doesn't make sense for me to drink because when I drink, I don't feel good. I'll give you an example. My boyfriend is an ex-Marine and he's super healthy. Like he eats really clean and he is always working out and, he looks fantastic. He feels good all the time, but he doesn't drink. And he used to drink. I mean, and he might have like one drink, he'll have like one old fashioned, maybe two over the course of a night. But then I'm like, listen, are you sure you want to go for that second one? Because you complain a lot the next day. You wake up and you're like, rah, 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 I don't feel good. I didn't sleep well, da, da, da. So, I just want to remind you, do whatever you want. But I know that in the morning, you're going to be complaining, oh, I feel dehydrated, blah, blah. And the guy hardly drinks. Same with the beer. He's like, oh, I feel like a piece of bread exploded in my stomach when I have beer, So, and the same with a hamburger. He'll have a hamburger and then he's bitching about, how he had to go to the bathroom. So he's very careful now what he eats, what he drinks, because he just doesn't like the way he feels when he does it.
Yes.
And so I think more and more people are like, oh, JoAnne, what, you could never have a drink? Oh, you go to a party, you'll never have a drink? What, you can't have a drink for the rest of your life? I could do whatever I want. I'm a grown woman. I can go and have a bottle of wine right now if I want. But I choose not to because it just doesn't fit into my life. So
right. It no longer serves you.
Right.
It no longer fits into your life, just like you wouldn't ingest a bag of Oreos. You're also not going to ingest a bottle of wine. And furthermore, the more people that I speak with about wanting to remove alcohol, it's because they want to take their current life to the next level.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, how can I get more of these valuable resources? Number one being time. And that is a big one. When you realize how much time you get back once you remove alcohol, that contributes to the superpower you were talking about earlier, because you wake up earlier, you are ready to go. You also what I found, bringing other positive habits, because positive habits then increase other positive habits. And so getting into things like mindfulness meditation, which I always say, you meditate for 30 minutes, you get an hour back in your day, because it just is a compound effect. Just like the negative compound effect of drinking was in my life. So drinking would then create a hangover, which would then create a craving for Mexican food, which would then create a feeling of like, oh, I'm bloated, now I don't want to go work out. Compound negative effect. It has created a compound positive effect to remove it. So then what do? Create these great habits that I can't help myself from doing. All of a sudden, it's like, you are doing these things for your own life. You are getting up early and looking at your goals, your life statements, your things that you want to achieve. You can dream so much easier when you're not filled with emotions like guilt, shame, any of these other negative things that sometimes happen after you do your thing that you're not proud of.
Oh, for sure. I mean, then I have really been able to like level up my life as a result of taking alcohol out and marijuana as well. I was a big pot smoker. So I took that out as well. And it's, but what happens is that then I'm left with all the feelings that I use drugs and alcohol to get away from. So then there's that. And then it's like, well, I don't know how to deal with these feelings, which is why I drank and did drugs in the first place. And that kind of opened up a whole other can of worms, a deeper can of worms. And so then I had to start to think about, like, they would say, oh, you have to be happy from the inside out. Or, oh, you need to forgive. And I'm like,
what do these things mean?
I don't know how to do that.
Right.
And I had to, and by this time I was in my, early mid 40s, and I'm like, hey, you know what? I'm pretty sure that I'm supposed to know how to forgive by now, or I'm pretty sure that I'm supposed to know how to be happy from the inside out. And I had to have the humility to realize, wow, I'm not even at zero, I'm at negative, because I don't know how to do these things.
Yeah.
No
one does.
Like, hey, go in here, listen, there's all the ingredients for the cake, and there's the kitchen, and there's what you need. Go and make a cake. And then you look and you're like, Fulano's making a cake, and Mary's making a cake, and Sally, she has a beautiful cake, and you're like, I don't know how to make the fucking cake. And so then you have to realize, like, well, that was like me in life. I'm like, well, this one's doing well, and that one's doing well, and she's happy, and she's rich, and and I just didn't know how to do any of that. So then I had to kind of have the humility to kind of start there. Like, start with the fact of, okay, I got to figure out how to forgive. I need to figure out how to be happy from the inside out. And there's no way that I could focus on any of that with drugs and alcohol in my life. I just didn't have the clarity or the inclination or the desire. I was in survival mode. So as I removed the drugs and the alcohol, I was able to begin to start that search with learning, and I read books, and I did seminars, and I did weekend transformational workshops, and I did like a lot of stuff to learn how to forgive. And then it comes into, well, I had to start to take responsibility for my life. And that helped in forgiving. Like, when I could start to see my part in things, yeah, sure, I had people that did messed up things to me. I could tell you all about that. I would love to. But then again, I did messed up things to them too. Or I put myself in situations that I allowed those things to happen to me. Or I was drinking or doing drugs, and I put myself in a vulnerable situation, and I got taken advantage of. So again, I say that sobriety is my superpower, because it allows me to keep my mind. I'm still batshit crazy, but I'm a lot less crazy than I was. Right. And I manage my emotions a lot better.
And we have to realize that no matter what happens to us in our life and other people, you are behaving at exactly the level of your consciousness.
Yeah.
right? So much of life is just, like I said, I would just get on an airplane, like order a drink. It wasn't even a conscious, it was almost an unconscious decision. But like you said, you started to do these workshops, you started to do the meditation, you started to do, I have this hierarchy of excellence that's on my website, and people can just go to it. I also have it on my social media, but it's kind of like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. If you can imagine that pyramid, because you can't excel if you're starving, right? So it's like there's like a basic, it's a hierarchy, and it's the same thing with achieving excellence in your life. You can't figure out your destiny in life if you're hungover, right? No. So what do you have to do instead of blaming or comparing? Right, comparison is the root of all misery. We have really got to just put the blinders on and stop looking. We don't know what anyone else is going through. I mean, if anything has taught us anything, it is do not look to your right or to your left, because you don't know what's happening inside of your neighbor's home. So the most we can do is work on ourselves and a clear path to see, okay, why is this happening to me? Gosh, why? How can I do better? Just to look at this kind of this hierarchy and say, you know what, at the fundamental level, what do I need to remove in order to get to that next higher level of excellence? And so any bad habits, alcohol, food, toxic relationships, anything that you know, and again, it can usually come up like that.
Yeah, because it's usually the things that we hold on to the most.
The things we hold on to, the things
that give us comfort.
The things we make excuses around, the things that we keep room for in our life, even though we, and use words like should or shouldn't, all of those things. So for people, it's usually, you can think of it very easily, and it's very simple, but it's not the easiest to then remove. That's the hardest. That's why it's in red.
It's usually the scariest. And I think where a lot of people get jammed up about it is people, and well into my 40s, before I realized that I need help. I can't do this by myself. So anytime that I would want to do something, and I knew on some level I couldn't do it by myself, I would just stop. It wouldn't occur to me to get help, because that felt like, I don't know, I felt like I was a loser. Like if I had to get help with something, it means that I'm not good enough, and I'm not enough to be able to handle this in my life. So, but I was so broken at a time in my life that I realized, yeah, bitch, you need help. Yeah. And my friends would be like, yeah, for sure you need help. But also just, I didn't want to sit down on a couch and tell a therapist my problems and be with a therapist 1 hour a week and da-da-da. So I had to find a help. I had to seek help that worked for me. So for any of our listeners, it's not just like identifying our habits and plucking them out. It's not that easy. Usually you're going to need some support around that.
Every human needs support. I mean, your story, everyone feels the exact same way. Why can't I figure this out myself? Why am why can't I figure this out myself? I
can't do it by myself.
No human can get to the level that they need to get. Newsflash. Yeah. So whatever your modality is, no judgment around it. Do what works for you. Try it. Therapy works. Therapy doesn't work. Whatever. It's up to you. Weekend retreats work. Weekend retreats don't work. Try it. Just like everything else.
But get help.
Just get help. And if you don't like the word help, then say
support.
That's right. Whatever word you need to. For me, I use AF for alcohol free. That was the way I'm like, okay, I'm going to be fun AF. I'm going to be, that's my thing, because that's how I'm going to get through this, because I'm not going to be boring.
No.
Because that was my thing. Now realizing, looking back, it's so funny what we connect with and what we need to, quote unquote, keep in our lives to make sure that we are staying the exact whatever version of ourself in our head we think we need to keep up. So getting help is just so fundamental, and help can come in so many places, so many variety. It's just realizing if you aren't getting help, then I believe you're not living up to the greatest version of yourself.
Right.
Because there's always another level of help.
Oh, for sure. Like, for example, I have a difficult time working out. Like, I've never been one of those people that just want to work out 4 or 5 times a week. My boyfriend works out all the time. It's so annoying. Every day. Oh, I got to do shoulders. Oh, I got to do legs. Oh, it drives me nuts. And so I got to have a trainer. You know, if I don't have a trainer or go to a class or, you know, and I just accepted it. Like, bitch, you're not going to work out on your own. You got to pay and you got to show up at a certain time and then I'll do it. And then maybe, so like, I'm like, I want to have a body transformation. I want to be in the best shape of my life. I'm like, well, you better sell some more real estate, bitch, because you're going to have to pay a trainer and you're going to hate it. And, you know, but I realized that now after everything I've gone through, I get help. You know, I don't do anything alone anymore. And it's so much, it takes so much pressure off.
And it's so much fun to work out with a trainer.
Even if you don't, like, you could be like, well, I don't have the money, I'm not rich. Okay, well, find a friend that, like, wants to work out, that you can go walking with every day. You know, like, you could do it for free. Or even, like, you know, there's 12-step programs. There's so many. So there's so much support when you just get past, I think, swallowing the rock of, I want to do something. I realize that I am not able to do it by myself and I have to get help. Like that, I think a lot of people just stop, especially men. You know, for women, I think it's a little bit easier because we're just mushier and we just, you know, for men, it's even, I think, more difficult to get support, if you will.
Yeah, I always was, I thought I was always a mushy person because I just always felt a lot of love, but I didn't realize how I wasn't feeling my emotions.
That's another thing.
So I was always loving, I was always sensitive. I actually, this is kind of funny, I thought that people that said things like life is hard were weak and annoying. And really, they were just saying what they were feeling because they were feeling their feelings. Meanwhile, I'm over here like, could I get another rosé?
Yeah.
Because I have a smile on my face. I feel the love around me. That was authentic. But I wasn't allowing other emotions to be felt. And it's pretty hilarious now, all the emotions. And everyone in my household gets to hear about all of the emotions that I'm feeling.
Yeah, but it's even, like, I'll tell you an example. You know, being sober and having the ability to identify your emotions. I was like in my mid-30s and I went to go visit my friend, and she's beautiful and she's successful and she lived in the building that I wanted to live in, and she just came back from a vacation with this younger man who was beautiful and apparently amazing in bed, and she wanted to show me the pictures and I was so excited to see the pictures, and then we must have looked at pictures for fucking 12 hours. It wasn't 12 hours, but it felt like 12 hours. I mean, so many pictures. Oh, no, we can't. Oh, I can't show you these pictures. These are the private ones and blah, blah. And she just had everything that I wanted. And so I'm like, okay, I got to go, blah, blah, blah. And I left and I was standing at the elevator of her beautiful building and I felt like mad. You know, I felt this feeling of mad. And I'm like, well, why am I mad at this girl? And I'm like, I'm not mad at her. And I go, oh my God, I'm jealous.
Hell yeah.
This is, oh my God, I'm jealous of her. This is what jealousy is. And then I'm like, oh, I felt this feeling before. And, you know, the point is that, like, it's very easy to spot something like jealousy in someone else. Like, oh, she's just jealous of someone. But to really be able to identify it and connect the dots within yourself, I tell you, is an epiphany. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm jealous. And it's such a hard thing to admit to yourself that you're jealous, you know? But I guess when you wake up and you defrost and you start to, like, be able to identify your feelings, but the beautiful thing is that if you're at a point that you're able to identify your feelings and say, oh, I feel this, I feel that, then who's the identifier? Who's identifying it? If you're able to identify it, at least you have dominion over it. And you're not doing it you're not in the pool of jealousy. You're identifying jealousy within you. And when you're able to identify it, then you can begin to do something about it. Then you can decide if you want to continue to feed this feeling or go, oh, yeah, you know what, JoAnne, you're just being jealous. Let's just let that go. You love this girl. You're happy for her. And if she could have it, you can have it too. You have a lot of things to be grateful for. And I think these are the feelings that you start to have all these feelings and you don't know what to do with them or how to identify them. And when you really start to do the work, you start to be like, oh, I'm feeling, not I am jealous. It's I feel jealous.
That's right.
You know, because that's not what defines me, but I do identify that feeling. And it's also, I've been able to identify my feelings and accept them all because I'm human. You know, I'm really selfish and I'm really not selfish. And I'm really grateful and then I'm not grateful.
That's right.
I'm everything.
We all are, again, human. We all have these continuum of feelings and they are just through the lens of our life. And that's what our experience has been. And so to allow people, so somewhere in our lives, we suppressed feelings and we got rewarded for it. And so then decades later, that's what we're unpeeling.
Yeah.
So it is very helpful if there are younger people in our lives for us to shepherd them and to be able to say, it is okay to feel and express in safe places these feelings. And also as grown-ups to say, hey, listen, this is a feeling that I'm feeling, and just to be aware of it.
Yeah.
To be aware of, and you know, mental health, it really was not spoken about until relatively recently.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, my mom is a therapist, and mental health was not really even spoken about. I mean, it gets a little crazy.
That's funny.
But yeah. It's until you can, like you said, identify it and then be aware of it, then the feelings can help you.
Yeah.
They can help you to say, okay, oh, I am feeling jealous because I am seeing something in her life that I want for mine. How can I achieve the version of that in my life?
Yes.
Right? So instead of saying, oh, we either have to suppress that or deny that or that isn't me or whatever, feel it and then say, how can I obtain not what she has, but what is it that I like about what happened? How do I get to go on either that vacation or have that person in my life or whatever it is? And then work towards obtaining that.
Yeah. Because then it kind of, sometimes we're like, well, I don't know what I want, you know? And so jealousy is a good way to tell you what you do want.
That is so good.
Yeah.
Jealousy is a great way to tell yourself what you want. It's so true. Whenever you're feeling the emotions about people, and this is very easy to do with people that you see, you know, like famous people. Okay, if they annoy you, what about them is triggering you? What about them that's inside of you that you're like, ooh, I want to achieve that. Why do they have that and I don't? Well, they work towards it, and so can you. I think anxiety also for me was a huge awareness, particularly after I took alcohol out of my life, because I thought for years and years that I was just an anxious person. It was the emotion that I was dealing with. So whenever I was in the car, I was anxious. I thought it came with life. Oh, I have a lot going on. I'm very busy in my career. I'm a mother of a couple of children that I need to have responsibility for. I have this. And not until I took it out, and again, it was after that, you know, a couple of months, I started the awareness of like, oh my God, I would be in exact same scenarios, and I'm like, I'm not experiencing
the anxiety. Yeah.
And then over, obviously, the last couple of years, I've just realized that I'm not a naturally anxious person.
Right.
It was the effects of having even just a couple of glasses of wine.
And it's cyclic because, like for me, I drank and I smoked a lot of pot because I was anxious, right? But then those, you know, toxins made me anxious. So then I drank and smoked more. to get rid of the anxiety. And so it was like a little roller coaster. And then the first, I'd say like week or two, I was very anxious and I didn't have my elixirs, I didn't have my weed, I didn't have my Chardonnay. And so it was kind of like white knuckling it. But I mean, it also got to the point where it just didn't work for me anymore. And eventually I had to be honest with myself. And I'm like, you know what? You're really just drinking to avoid feeling your feelings. And, maybe if I just feel my feelings and honor them and bring them up and invite them to tea and say, what do you have to say about life? And just experience them, then they dissipate.
Right.
Which is what I learned in therapy. So it has been the best decision I've ever made has been to remove drugs and alcohol from my life. The best decision. So my question for you is this. You are now coaching people on going alcohol free, or what are you doing now?
Yes. So for many years, I was 10 years in real estate, 10 years in beauty, and then took out alcohol a few years ago. And so I am taking business coaching, but also adding in that alcohol-free element for anyone that needs that extra bit of support.
Right.
So I am coaching on just, any career that is wanting to get to the next level, but then also taking the alcohol-free element, because when you remove it, all of a sudden you don't have all of these other barriers dissipate, and then you're able to just focus on those goals. You have the clarity that you need because you don't have all of the extra baggage, the baggage of the emotions that are unnecessary and not serving you.
Yeah. I hear you. I mean, I've done a lot of work, not necessarily a lot of therapy. I just have done a lot of work. Meditation has been, a
Huge.
big thing for me. And of course, I'm like, I don't know how to meditate. I can't meditate. It doesn't work for me, And I started off with transcendental meditation, TM, which was great. I learned how to do that. Yep. And then now I've gone down the dark hole with Joe Dispenza. I don't know if you're familiar with Joe Dispenza,
I'm
but
obsessed with Joe
I am
Dispenza.
so obsessed with him. And it's an issue. I listen to him every day.
I think if people, it's either you don't know him or you're obsessed with him.
Exactly.
That's the only two.
Once you go down the route, I mean, what I love about him is that he's a scientist, so he explains the science behind what's happening in your brain and your body when you meditate. And this year, my goal was to really understand how to be happy from the inside out, and to also learn more and understand how to access the fifth dimension. Now, that's a whole other thing that people are like, what the fuck is she not? In through his work, I'm learning. I'm going to go to the advanced workshop in Marco Island in September. I'm super excited about that.
Amazing.
And I do a lot of guided meditations with him, and he makes me want to meditate. I really love the idea of changing my energy and raising my vibrations, and just being hyper aware of my thoughts and being aware of all the thoughts and behaviors that do not serve me. Now, don't get me wrong. A lot of times I have to be aware of them and sit with them for a while. It's not like I become aware and then from that day on, I don't act the way that I do, because I've been embedded. I eat for, I don't drink anymore, so now I eat. I love sugar. So sometimes I'm aware that I should not be going into the bakery and getting pokey bait, as we call it in my house. Or I live with the diet dictator. My boyfriend is a diet dictator. Mm. So so anytime I'm going to eat bad food, I have to do it without. But then I end up telling him, and he's like, "Why are you eating?" I go, "Because he goes, "Why?" I go, "I don't even know." But I had an ice cream sandwich from the gas station. He's like, "From the gas station?" How ghetto of you. I'm like, "Yeah, it was a Nestle." And little does he know that I also had a Snickers bar, and I hide the wrappers. I mean, it's bad. But I have to be aware of it for a while before I'm able to change my behavior. And Joe Dispenza has really helped me kind of understand that.
Right. Well, the power of the subconscious. And what's interesting is when you take alcohol out of your life, you start to get really interested in things that no longer scare you, because you wouldn't want to know more about how the brain operates if you know that what you're doing is kind of damaging your brain. So once you start removing things, then all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, the power of the brain. And we only know a fraction, and it's already unbelievable. And that our subconscious, so much of it is just programming from our childhood. And guess what, guys? You can reprogram it. Just like you could change your body, you can change your mind. And for me, this is the most exciting thing in science, period.
Ever. No, his work is amazing. So, I mean, that could be a whole other podcast that we do. But for now, how can our listeners, if they're interested in continuing the conversation of going alcohol free, how can they find you? And we'll put all of your information in the description of this podcast, so there'll be links and stuff. But just to say it out loud, how could they find you if they're interested in working with you or continuing the conversation about how to excel their business through becoming alcohol free? And
you know. Yes, on any of the socials, I'm Katy Stoka. It's spelled KatyStoka. Instagram is the Katy Stoka. My website is katystoka.com. So any of that, YouTube, all of it, you can just Google it, and you'll get a bunch of stuff about magnetic eyelashes, and then you'll get to my current thing, because there's a lot of things on that, and then it goes straight to me. So thanks for having me. I'm really appreciative.
No, I mean, I don't feel complete, but our time is out. So I want to talk to you more, but we got to close it up. So that is our episode for today. And if you're thinking about going alcohol free, reach out to me, reach out to Katy. It's a very personal thing. I don't really talk about it a lot. So the fact that I'm even bringing this aspect of who I am out to the public is like, kind of a big deal, but I'm not convinced that people really listen to my podcast anyway. So I'm always surprised when people are like, oh, I heard your podcast. I'm like, really? You know about it? They're like, well, we got your email. And I'm like, okay, I didn't think that anybody looked at my emails anyways. But but we're everywhere you look for podcasts. So, Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon.
Yes. And my podcast is called My Last Drink.
I love it.
So I interview other people that have taken alcohol out of their lives, and they are now excelling.
Yes.
And so we do it in beautiful locations according to whatever the guest is doing right now. And you can get it on wherever you get your podcasts.
Okay, so My Last Drink, and then are you on YouTube as well?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So listeners, you guys know where to find us. And thank you for listening. And Katy, thank you so much for being here. It's just was so much fun getting to know you more. And that's it for today, guys. We'll see you next time.